Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Red Card Report podcast. We've got a great show for you guys today. It's the off season, so we're going to be talking a lot of transfer news for the next couple of months. Today we're going to be talking about specifically Serie A and all the transfers that's been going on within the league. But before we get to that, I want to throw it on over to the boys. As always, Joe Capuano and Rui Pereira. How you guys doing today?
Great, man. How are you?
Chilling.
Yeah?
Chilling, Joe?
I'm just about to drink some Castello water. My throat's a little parched. Sorry.
I know Rui's suffering from some allergies.
Oh, my God, man. I'm really happy that I'm feeling a little bit better, but still not 100%.
We apologize in advance if there's a bunch of coughing in the background.
Yes, I will do my best to muzzle that, but
just don't sneeze on the mic, please.
It's not your mic, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, but you want to have a a
Don't
clean
worry
mic.
about it, man.
Right.
It's going to be fine.
Okay.
Joe, don't worry. My mic is my mic. That's
Okay.
it. All right. Anyway, Dylan, what do we got?
Down to business. Like I was saying earlier, got a good show. We're going to be talking about the Serie A transfers over the last couple of months. And where do you fellas want to start? What team you guys want to start with? There's been quite a few over the last few months. Actually, probably more so than the other leagues.
Yeah,
right?
They're getting a lot of shit done. That's all I can say.
Outside of La Liga, that's basically actually, they're doing more than La Liga so far. And
a lot of activity. And I'm not even saying that as someone who watches Serie A constantly. I mean, I can't think of any other reports coming out of England or, Germany, any other place.
Hazard going to Real Madrid.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there's been some moves going on in La Liga, but primarily it seems like most of the news has been coming from Serie A.
Mm-hmm.
So we do want to, of course, over the next couple of months, we will, of course, hit on the EPL and La Liga, the
eventually.
Bundesliga. But right now, there's been so much talk and so much news surrounding Serie A. I think now is definitely the time to get all this stuff out of the way. And
How about we do an alphabetical order? I feel like that's a good way to do it.
Sounds good to me.
So AS Roma.
So
right?
AS Roma would be
Okay,
number
cool.
one.
So Joe, take it away, man. This is your stuff here.
This stuff's in my wheelhouse, definitely. So for AS Roma, right now, as of today, actually, Manolas might leave AS Roma and go to Napoli. Right now, they have terms agreed. And one thing that a lot of people don't really take into consider are image rights. They also agreed image rights with Manolas and Napoli. The reason why that's important...
I was just going to say, I'm not familiar with image rights, if you want to explain that.
So why image rights are important is it allows the club to use the photos and other things of the player in advertisements for the club. Some clubs aren't allowed to use their players' images for sponsor rights and things like that. Like, say, an athlete sponsored by Nike, he's not going to be in an ad for a team that's sponsored by Adidas.
Okay, yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important. So if they all align, like, say, an Adidas-sponsored athlete goes to an Adidas-sponsored team, that's
Totally
full-on image rights. They're allowed to use all of his images, and the player will make more money that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's why it's important. So right now, going back to the actual issue or transfer, Manolas looks likely headed to Napoli for 36 million euros. They're going to pay the fee.
Transfer fee or release clause?
Release clause.
Okay.
That's
So
what I meant to say.
All the negotiations with Milan, it's pretty much shot out the window.
Right.
That's unfortunate.
Well, they're looking for They're actually looking for a replacement for Raul Albiol, who's going to be leaving and going to La Liga. So Manolas is going to be partnering Koulibaly, your favorite player.
I love Koulibaly, and you know what? Being paired up with Manolas, who's a solid center back.
That's right.
Just a solid center back, and I think he's better than Raul Albiol.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's just going to improve.
That's going to be a good.
Albiol was good in his prime. Now he's up with the age, and you can tell that he wasn't playing as much as he was in the past. Just adding a player like Manolas, who's younger, obviously, to that rotation, to that starting lineup, alongside Koulibaly, I think they're just going to be even better together. I think Manolas is going to be even better this year, playing with someone that is just so good, that's world class, like Koulibaly, and playing along with Alan, who was earlier this year supposed to be moving away and not. He looks like he's going to stay. So, Napoli is going to look really, really strong.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But like you said, Rui, that's going to be a good defensive pairing, I think. Another player moving away from AS Roma is Kolarov. It looks like he's going to be going to the Turkish league with Fenerbahce. And I think that's going to be a free transfer. And another key player for AS Roma that I don't know. There was no concrete info on this. His contract, whether or not he's going to stay at AS Roma is kind of in limbo, just because the club needs money, which is one reason why they're selling Manolas. But they could get even more money if they sold Zaniolo, who has suitors in England, France. PSG.
Even Juventus was interested in them as well.
And Juventus is interested in him too. So he doesn't know if he's going to stay. His agent doesn't know if he's going to stay. It's really all in flux. But
so it's all just to generate more revenue for the club.
Exactly.
And to expand. That makes sense. It's tough for a team like Roma that doesn't really generate as much revenue as the other clubs, and they're really struggling. Well, not struggling. They're making somewhat progress on building that new stadium, just like what every other big club in Serie A is trying to adopt the same model. Juventus and Udinese, right? Udinese has their own stadium.
Yeah, they own their own stadium, yeah.
And it's worked out great for Juventus. Everything is just pure profit. They don't have to pay anything to the cities like Milan. Both Milan clubs do. Both Roman clubs do. Napoli, all the big clubs, they're really hurting. They're taking a loss, by renting out stadiums from their cities and losing out on all like that profit, that share that goes to the city. So they're making little progress, but it's still a long way to go. Yeah, and it's unfortunate for a club like Roma.
And in the capital city, the way that they have to do their business is, in order to buy players, they need to sometimes sell their best ones. That's just the way that their business works.
It's like almost that Moneyball style.
Sort of, yeah. They do produce a lot of talent, but another team that, do I want to say? I don't want to say barely made qualification, but it got pretty scary. Was Inter, and I feel like Rui is screaming on the inside like Inter and the Champions.
Yeah, they're making all these moves. They're out of FFP.
Ton of moves. Yeah.
They're out of FFP. They're making all these moves. They're linked to all these players. Sensi, who was linked to AC Milan, it seemed like he was going there. And now Inter just stole him away. There's a $5 million loan, €5 million loan with the option of a $35 million option to buy after the end of the season. So he's definitely going there. And also, Barella is also linked to them, and that is the only team that he wants to play for. He's already put it out. And Inter says that they are looking to get him as well for the best price. And they're also linked to Lukaku. I don't know where they're getting all this revenue from, all this money, this budget's massive. I don't know. Inter, if they can get a couple of these players, especially in the midfield, they're going to look fantastic.
Dangerous.
It's really scary next season. I don't know if they'll compete with Juventus and for the Scudetto, but they can compete with Napoli second place.
I mean, they have Conte. I think he's
great coach.
I think he's gonna kick some ass on that squad, and I think that he might trim some of the fat. But like you said, I don't know where all this money is coming from all of a sudden, because they haven't sold any players yet that I know of.
Well, if they're going to bring in Lukaku, obviously they're going to have to sell Icardi. And with Icardi, you should be able to make more or just break even with the deal for Lukaku.
Talk about a player whose transfer value went way down.
How would you guys feel about that, Lukaku for Icardi?
Something's telling me that Lukaku would be a really good Serie A striker.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I feel like with his
very
physicality,
big and physical. Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of strikers that make it to Serie A say it's like striker 101. Like they go back to the basics. They play very physical. And a lot of strikers really love Serie A, even though they don't rack up as many goals as, say, like they would in England or in Spain. from everything I've read, strikers do really like Serie A. They just have to work maybe a little bit harder.
Well, Icardi's proof that you don't really need to have so many touches in a game to put away many goals. And Lukaku can fit that role just fine.
Well said.
He's got an elephant touch, but you know what? When that guy is when that guy is like in the zone, when he's on his A game, he's fantastic. He can put the ball away with both feet. He can head the ball. He can launch it from 30 yards out. You know, he can create some plays, but it's all about being able to control the ball when he's under pressure in these big game situations. You know, that's really what Inter needs in order to proceed and, you know, get forward and compete with Juventus, because Icardi is that type of player that does show up in the big grandest stages of all. In big games, we've seen them score screamers. We've seen him score 90-minute goals when it all mattered.
Yep.
You know, he's done so much, but, you know, Inter looks like they need to go in a different direction, because they cannot rely on this guy's mental state anymore, because it's a risk keeping him, because his value is just going to keep decreasing year by year with all these situations that he's creating, all these problems, the locker room turmoil. And while that whole situation,
we had a whole
this
episode
year,
on it, right?
Yeah, we did a whole episode on this when he was going through whatever the hell he was going through earlier this season. Inter was really suffering.
Yeah.
You know, at times they looked good, but you can tell that the problem was taking a toll around, in the locker room, with the coach, with the players, and they just weren't playing well. So I don't know. I think they're gonna, if they're able to sell Icardi, I think Lukaku would be a great fit for them.
Yeah, I mean, but here's my question: do you think that for both of you guys? Do you think he's worth 80 million euros, or do you think United could get him for 80 million euros? I mean, sell him. That's what I meant.
I don't think he's worth 80 million euros right now. I think he could be worth 80 million euros. I think when he was coming out of Everton, he was probably worth 80 million euros. But
when he
was bought for 70.
Yeah.
I think it'll be very interesting to see what he does with Inter, because I think it's pretty clear that he needed a change of scenery, because things just weren't working out. You know?
Things weren't working out for a lot of people at Manchester United.
Yeah.
So you can use that for an excuse. And, you know, he does have the potential to be very good. And
yeah, I think it's clear that he's shown that he has the skill and he has the ability to score goals.
Yeah, there have been periods when he was at Manchester United where he was just tearing it up.
Yeah, they were generally against smaller teams.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But you know what Lukaku kind of, in my mind, he would remind me of if he goes to Inter, is Adriano. Not as good a dribbler, but the same kind of physicality that he had.
I guess just
that's
size.
about it. Yeah, size too. Dude's a refrigerator.
Joe, don't put those two together.
No, believe me, I'm not like...
Adriano is one of the greatest players that I've ever seen. Unfortunately,
he was all right.
He was great.
But
moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Moving on. The next team.
Joe, it's your team, man.
Yeah, Juventus. Juventus is also nothing really official yet. I gotta say, nothing official yet. Right now, Manchester City is in talks with João Cancelo. Apparently, Juventus want to sell him. He's not in Maurizio Sarri's plans for the future, and he's agreed personal terms with Man City. Right now, the asking price is 60 million euros, and we'll see how that turns out.
How do you feel about that move? That potential move?
I really like João. I really do. I think he's a great right back, and he'll definitely be one of the best right backs in the world given time.
He already is.
He needs to work on his defense. He really needs to work on his defense. He's had several high-profile mistakes that have led to goals.
How do you feel as a Juventino? How do you feel about him potentially going to Manchester City?
I'm okay with it. I am okay with it. I wasn't initially okay with it because I heard that he was only going to be sold for like 10 million more euro than what we bought him for.
About 50 million or so.
Yeah, and I was that's
nothing. You bought him for 50 million. You were potentially going to sell him for 50.
We bought him for 40.
I'm sorry,
we were
40
million
million and sell him for 50. Right.
Which
okay.
that I'm like, that's peanuts, honestly, when you really think about it. So,
because like there were moments this year for a good part of the season, he was phenomenal.
He was on fire. He really was.
Especially in the beginning, he was phenomenal.
Really, really good. And he had a really good communication with Ronaldo. He gave him multiple assists.
Even him and Douglas Costa on the right, I really liked watching the both of them play.
Yeah.
I mean, the two of them tore up AC Milan, my team.
I know.
Which was painful to watch, but it was like really amazing to see how well they were able to communicate, build this sort of chemistry, overlap runs. Just they looked like they were built and made to play with each other. The way they were going up and down the flanks, putting balls in the box, cutting inside. It was absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah.
Unstoppable seeing those two work. But unfortunately, the inconsistencies at times with Douglas Costa and his attitude and João Cancelo kind of being a liability on defense, those two really never were able to be on the field together for good
point.
For a good amount of time throughout the season.
No consistency.
But it's a real shame to see that, because when those two were together on the field, they were unstoppable.
Great. They really were. And this is why I would be okay with João leaving, is because if and when he gets sold to Man City for 60 million euros, Juventus are also pursuing Matthias de Ligt. All of that money would get pushed into funding his transfer from Ajax to Juventus, which would be incredible. He is one of the most sought-after talents on the planet right now. We'd be beating out PSG and apparently Real Madrid, I think.
And Barcelona.
Right.
I believe it was Barcelona that was linked to him.
Yeah, of course, because he's, Ajax and Barcelona.
It's the youth academy for Barcelona now.
Pretty much. So that is what I would be okay with if that money went to De Ligt, to trying to get him to sign.
So what would you do after what's Juventus planning on doing at the right back position? Because you don't really want to have Giglio playing.
We don't.
I mean, he's good to come off the bench, play in a couple of games or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you don't want him playing 38 games a season. In Scudetto.
He's not a 38 game season sort of right back. I think another reason why we were selling Cancelo is because we needed to sort of balance the accounts before a certain time period. Like I think before June 30th, but
right.
that's different. Apparently, another one of the targets to sit with the departure of Cancelo is Kieran Trippier from. Did I say that right? Is it Kieran?
Yeah, Kieran. Yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, sorry, Kieran Trippier from Tottenham Hotspur. Sarri's a big fan, and from what I've read, he would do really well under Sarri's style of football.
He's more offensive, and I think Trippier is going to be a great fill-in for you guys.
You think so?
I think so.
I haven't seen him play aside from with the England national team.
Well, he's a lot like João Cancelo. He can get forward. He's great with the ball at his feet, and he's amazing on crossing the ball. He's very accurate at crossing the ball into the box, getting forward, tracking back, and also on set pieces. If you need a free kick taker,
that's what I was going to say.
He is fantastic. He's one of the best in the world. We've seen him at Tottenham. We've seen him on the English national team. That incredible free kick he had against Croatia.
That's what I was thinking of. That was really good.
I think if you can get him for the right price, let's say like half of what you sell Cancelo for, I think that's a win for you guys. I think it's a win for Juventus. And if what you're saying is true, they're selling Cancelo to get a little bit of money to add to the De Ligt deal, and then bring in Kieran Trippier. I think that's a win. You're bringing in two good players. You're sacrificing one that's a little bit better at one position, but you know what? Adding De Ligt onto your team, that's a guy that's going to be solid for another 12 years.
Yeah.
Very, very good for 12 years. Not
solid.
You know
him better than I do.
So I think that'll be a win for you guys for sure.
So, we also have a lot of players that need to get the hell out. But that's a story for another time. Adrian Rabiot also has agreed terms. That would be a free transfer, but not really free because we have to pay his agent, who is also his mother, her asking price for her agent fee. And there are a bunch of other deals that have yet to officially become official, like Christian Romero from Genoa, Demiral from Sassuolo, and apparently we're also still pursuing Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio and Chiesa from Fiorentina. Whether any of these happen is still up in the air. I think at least 2 of those are likely to happen.
Well, Christian Romero is pretty much
done.
And then maybe you guys can sneak in another player. So
yeah,
alongside with Trippier and maybe Chiesa. Or, I don't know. I think Milinkovic-Savic is going to be too much, man.
Maybe cheaper than Pogba, which is apparently another one that Paratici wants to go for, but I don't know.
Yeah, Manchester United's demanding $140 million for him.
Yeah, and
I doubt that's
going to
happen.
I really doubt it too. So we'll have to also get rid of players before we can get more players. Anyway, moving on to the next club. Do you want to cover this one, Rui?
You lead the way, Joe.
Are you sure?
I'll give you my opinion.
I feel like I'd be doing it a disservis, but
no.
I can do my best.
I'll give you my opinions.
Okay, I'll do my best on this one.
Someone seems a little sour.
I'm not sour. I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of happy. Given what's happened to Milan the last 3 months, I thought this transfer window was going to be an absolute shitstorm. And you know what? There's hope. There's hope. If any of these,
it's early.
Everyone and their mother is linked to Milan right now.
Well, one of the things that I found most interesting is apparently they're going after a lot of players from Real Madrid. They're in talks with one, it's a number of different players, whether they go after 1 or 2. But
I don't
there's
understand
a lot
of
names being thrown around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's Isco, Asensio, Kovacic, Nacho Fernandez. Like I said, there's a lot of names going around.
A lot of names. And that's because since Leonardo departed the club to go to PSG, go back to PSG, because that's where he was for a little while, Milan brought back another club legend, Zvonimir Boban, to sort of fill in that role. And he's been really busy. Really, really busy, and he seems to be
really aggressive too.
Yeah, very aggressive. He seems to be doing the right things too. Like you said, Dylan, he went to Madrid, and since Real Madrid have spent a shit ton of money on a bunch of players, they are at risk for financial fair play regulations. So they need to sell before they can keep buying, and a lot of the players that Dylan listed, like Marco Asensio, like Isco, have been deemed replaceable and surplus to requirements. So Boban's thought is that he could probably get maybe 1 or 2 of those players on a loan, maybe pay like 6 or 7 million euros on loan with some sort of obligation to buy at the end of the season. That's at least the thought in the Milan camp right now.
Yeah, I know that we haven't really got to Napoli yet, but if Milan are able to get a move for Isco, okay, say it's something similar to the James Rodriguez deal with Napoli. It's not finalized. It's pretty much agreed, kind of like the Romero situation at Juventus. It's not
steps away.
It's just a few steps away from being finalized. But say if Milan were given the same or maybe a similar deal, 5-7 million euro loan with like 40 million euro option to buy for Isco.
That's basic. Yeah, that's highway robbery.
Pull the trigger right away because that guy is worth. Last year, going into the season last year, he was worth 80 million at least. That guy was not leaving for less than 80 million if he were to be sold. So this is,
and then he sat on the bench practically this whole year.
Yeah, just wasn't working out. Just wasn't working out with Solari, and with Zidane, he was back in the rotation, but he was on and off. But so was that entire team. So I don't know if Milan are able to pull the trigger on Denis Ceballos or Isco,
or even Asensio.
Asensio, there's no way that they're going to let him go for cheap.
I don't know.
Who knows? He's young and he's full of talent.
He's a great young talent.
He's a young talent. That's the only problem.
Yeah, I could see that being.
I think around like 65,
70
70 million, they wouldn't sell him for less than that.
Yeah, I mean, if Madrid really wanted the money, but you're right, Milan might not be the club to actually pay for that. But they did pay for a certain teenager from Stuttgart named Ozan Kabak. I'll be honest, I haven't seen him play at all.
I haven't seen much of him either, but everyone is losing their mind over this kid because his release clause, is 15 million euros.
That's cheap.
That's
considering
very,
today's
nowadays
market.
It's cheap because everyone is just overinflated.
Mm-hmm.
All the values, the transfer fees, and all this, it's massively overinflated.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see 15 million for a 19-year-old center back who's promising, who's supposed to be very good one day, you jump right on it. Bayern was in talks with him. Real Madrid were in talks with him. And somehow Milan is in front of all of them. And it seems like this deal is close to being sealed.
Yeah.
And this would be a huge win. It's within Milan's budget.
Oh, absolutely.
15 million is peanuts for the budget that they have. And, it gives room and leeway to go out and buy someone like an Isco, to maybe even add a little bit more in salary for a player like Isco or Dani Ceballos, or another top player that they need to add to that midfield, because with Paqueta he cannot do it alone. Bakayoko is gone. Bonaventura
coming back from injury.
He's coming back from injury. Is he going to be the same? We don't know. But they also need to add on that. They need to get players that are Champions League worthy. Player like Isco, even Ceballos, who's a promising player that is. He's projected to be one of the best midfielders in the world when he is in his prime. So they need to get forward with this and better this midfield.
Here's the other thing that Milan need to do, and unfortunately, it's just part of the business, is they're going to need to sell in order to buy. So a couple of the names that I'm really, it sucks to say this, but it's the reality, is that they're going to need to sell people like Donnarumma, Suso, maybe Kessie. We don't know yet. All I know is that right now, the most likely out of all those guys to leave is Donnarumma, because you will get the most money back for him. Right now, it's reported that PSG, Leonardo again, trying to pilfer a bunch of Serie A talent and bring them to France. He's trying to get PSG to pay at least 60 million euros to buy Donnarumma. And I feel
that
like
would be a steal.
It would be a steal for
absolutely.
one. And two, but do you think Milan would be okay if they did that? I think they would.
I wouldn't be okay with it.
For 60 million euros?
Absolutely not. Because in 2 years from now, 3 years from now, he's going to be priceless.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not even kidding you. I'm not over-exaggerating, but I can guarantee you that if he were to leave 2 or 3 years from now, at the rate that he's progressing right now, he's going to be worth over 120 million euros.
I think it's worth...
At the rate where all these players are being overinflated with value, and him playing the way he has been playing, there's no way that he'll be sold for less than 100 million. But it could be more if he were to be sold. And he's just been so crucial for Milan this year. Yeah, he made quite a few mistakes, but there were games where Milan should have lost or they should have tied, and he came up huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, I think they have to keep him because it's so worth it for Milan to keep him and deal with kind of the growing pains early on. Like you said, he's only 19, correct?
Yeah.
19 years old, extremely, extremely young for a goaltender. It's natural that he's going to be, he'll make simple mistakes here and there. He's still growing and maturing as a player and as a person. And he has so much talent. He's very, very promising. And goalkeeping is so important. You know what I mean? It's not something that you can just,
can't overlook it.
Right. You can't overlook it, and it's very hard to come by. So when you find a player like this, you absolutely have to hold on to him because he could be, that generational player for your club.
And we've seen with goalkeepers over the years, Casillas, Buffon, Oblak, Ter Stegen the last couple of seasons, De Gea, how crucial they've been to their clubs and country. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with both of what you guys are saying, but I feel like the reality of the situation is that Milan will take whatever fee that they can get for him because it's all profit for one thing, because he was a youth player. They didn't pay anything to get him.
Mm-hmm.
So 60 million is pure profit.
Right.
He also hogs a lot of the wage bill. He makes 7 million euro after tax.
After tax, that's a lot for a
goalkeeper. Which is a lot. That's a lot. So you would be cutting, you have to just double that value. You'd be cutting 14 million euros off the wage bill. So in total, you'd be saving over 75 million. You'd be making 74 million euros.
Right. But, if Milan want to get to where they want to be, where they should be, and I mean, they should be one of the best clubs in the world right now, by now. Tons of mistakes for years and years and years. And if they want to be one of the best teams in the world, you're going to have players like that. You're going to have players like Donnarumma. And players like that, they require a hefty salary. And it only makes it better that he came from their youth academy because they didn't have to really pay a fee for him. So I get totally what you're saying. You grab the 60 million or whatever it is that they sell him for, and then you
reinvest.
You can reinvest, but you also you save on the salary and everything, so it adds up to around 75 million that you're saving and winning. Okay,
yeah, in a way.
Okay, so you reinvest. Who are you going to reinvest in? You can't keep on reinvesting in players. You can't be going through this rebuilding stage year in and year out. There has to be a time where this is my goalkeeper. This is my center back. This is why they brought in Paqueta and Piontek, because these are the guys that they're going to settle for the future, and they want to build around these guys. And Milan fans and the Milan board, their project was to build around Romagnoli, Paqueta, Piontek, and Donnarumma. These players are going to be great. They're going to when they're at their absolute best in their prime, and they're just those four players alone. They're going to be great for the team and for all the players that they're going to build around them. So they cannot continue to just rebuild and reinvest because they're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over again, and that's what they've been doing the last 6 years.
Yeah, if I were to tell Milan, I would just say, the board and all that and ownership, I would tell them not to worry about the short-term profit that they could make right now and think about the long-term profits that they could make down the road by, finally reaching Champions League and bringing in all that revenue. And who knows if they win it, but just getting into Champions League, just getting into the tournament, how much additional revenue you get from that. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it in the past. And that's huge for the club,
right?
And all these players are so young. I think they could really be set up for some serious long-term success if all these players were able to stay.
Yeah, and another thing, the FFP. So Milan are trying to appeal and make negotiations with UEFA. Say they are able to. Milan have proposed to UEFA, kick us out of the UEFA Cup this year, and maybe we can settle something where you can close this case against us, or even just extend the FFP sanctions just for one more year. Give us another year to balance the budget. If that works, if they're able to do that, at least
they might not need to sell.
They
Donnarumma.
might not have to sell Donnarumma because they have that. It's like where they started last year.
Instead of having to make up 100 million, they might need to make up. I'm just making up numbers.
Right.
Instead of having to make up 100 million, they'd only have to make up 50 million. Who knows?
Yeah, basically they're starting off the same way they did last year.
Right. So they could sell one of the other expendable players, maybe Suso or Kessie or.
Or they probably don't even need to sell anyone.
We don't know. We don't know. So they have to settle those financial issues first, and those are still ongoing. Don't know anything about those. They're kind of being a little bit secretive about that. Nothing has really been released by the club involving that since last month that I know of. So, yeah, we'll be monitoring that situation. I know, Rui, I know you will be too. So we'll keep an eye on the FFP situation with Milan.
All right, boys. Well, we're kind of running out of time here. I don't know. I think we pretty much hit all the transfers on the list, right? Was there anything that we missed? Anything you guys want to talk about?
One more. And Phil, that Surrey fan Phil is going to hate me for that. I apologize, Phil. I forgot to put Napoli on my notes, but
you did that on purpose to jab him.
I did not. No, I did not. But I feel like
this is why he trashes on you on Twitter all the time.
Probably. But I feel like it's a transfer that everyone who knows even something remotely knows something about football is that James Rodriguez is a likely target for Napoli, and it's practically
a done
done.
Deal. Yeah.
Which would be huge.
And Manolas going there too.
And Manolas too. So that is incredible. And I heard that they might even be changing their shirt sponsor to Adidas,
right? Yeah.
to accommodate James Rodriguez coming in.
Yeah, I think they already have.
I haven't seen any of the new kit designs, so I don't know. Usually that gets leaked somehow, and then you get an image and you debate whether or not you want to buy it. But that's a whole other issue.
And one thing I do want to add too, and I think this would be huge if Napoli can pull this off too, along with Manolas. I think they should focus, obviously, making sure that the James deal goes through. Do everything to make sure that goes through.
That would be very interesting.
Get Manolas. Now, the other player I wanted to mention was Kieran Trippier was linked to this team.
He was. Yeah, he was. You're right.
I think he would be great at Napoli.
Yeah. Yeah. They Hisai, their current right back, is looking to leave, so he would be filling in for him.
Napoli fans are not really happy with him.
Yeah,
not really. He didn't turn out to what they hoped he would be, but it's unfortunate. But if they can get Trippier too,
yeah, that would be interesting.
I don't know, Joe. They might steal the Scudetto from you.
I don't know. And another player they're linked with, which I thought was interesting, is Chucky Lozano, who the Mexican star from PSV. But I feel like it's either James or Lozano. I don't think it can be both, because James that's gonna be a hefty loan with an option to buy. I don't think that they're gonna.
Well, it came out pretty cheap. What the reports came out, €5 million loan, 35 million option to buy,
which is
ridiculously cheap. I think Real Madrid's just forcing to just dump money like as soon as possible. They try to make sure they get it before, get as much revenue before the 30th or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
either way,
that's
very
a ridiculous deal. Huge deal for Napoli if that goes through.
Yeah. Super interesting things happening at Napoli. So, yeah, sorry about that. We covered it, though. We did it.
No, I think we did a pretty good job of covering everything in Serie A. I'm sure there's still a lot more to come. Obviously, we had touched on the transfers that already happened, but there were also some potential targets that haven't really they haven't pulled the trigger on yet. A lot of the teams haven't pulled the trigger on yet. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens for within Serie A for the next couple of months. I think I touched on it at the beginning of the show. La Liga's made quite a few moves. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico. So I'm really looking forward to doing an episode on all the transfers and the rumors in La Liga. I'm sure we'll get that out of the way soon. And I guess that's it for today, boys. Anything else?
That's it, man.
That's it?
Forza Milan.
Delict is coming.
Yeah, well, Piontek's going to destroy him.
We'll see. It's going to be a very interesting season next year. That's all I know.